What's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new video for you guys today here on the channel. And something a little bit different, but it basically is relevant for what we're going to be seeing. So this is the F1 Journey Season 10 update. Now, as you would have seen, or you would have all basically seen it, Codemasters released a new patch whereby they updated all of the car models for the current Formula 1 cars to basically in tune them with what we see now in 2022. First things first, I think it's a massively positive update and one that I would love to see in more Formula 1 games moving forward is an update where we obviously, get the car models in how obviously teams, they rapidly develop their cars. But what that has meant is all of the mods that I have effectively made have basically been made null and void, and they've had to be done again, which is what we've done here. Now, normally when things tend to twist and change a little bit, I tend to try and build it into a storyline. However, with this, it doesn't quite work that way because a lot of things have had to change. So what I've done is I've taken the opinions and feedback of other people and also in general just my own personal thoughts on these liveries to try and tweak them and make them slightly better. However, because the way that the car models have now completely changed, it means that the wireframes and the car models that we've been using before to make these liveries have basically, they're now gone. We can't use them anymore. So I've kind of had to rebuild some of these liveries from the ground up and also from scratch with no wireframing to tell me basically where any specific part of the car is. So what I thought I'd go and do is just showcase you guys what all the cars look like, starting from scratch effectively. So we are on the virtual showroom, which is great. And you guys can basically make your own opinions up on what you think of them. So first things first, we've got my car. We've got the Mercedes EQ in full force here, and shout out to Mercedes. Obviously not to Mercedes, but no changes to the Mercedes. Fortunately, within the Mercedes car model, the livery and also the decals were pretty much in the exact same place. So I didn't have to change anything. So as you can see, it is the updated Mercedes. You can see the new front wing in play. You can see with the M plates just on the bottom down there, how they change inwards. There's a massive cut now in there. In the front wing design itself, the flaps have been slightly tweaked and slightly changed. So overall, no changes needed for the Mercedes. You can see though, obviously, it's had its own personal tweaks. Obviously, you can see that little bump now in the front suspension, the adjustments to the mirrors, and also the little fins that come out of it. And of course, you can see the changes to the airflow vents in there, and of course, the brand new floor. So fortunately, we haven't had to, and the rear wing as well. I forgot that change too. Overall, the Mercedes looks a hell of a lot nicer now. But as you can see, this is the Mercedes, and I've not had to change anything. So fortunately, it was just a case of reinstalling my mods back into this, and it all worked. So positive signs. Next up is the first car, which is going to take a little bit of a tweak, and that is Red Bull. Now, I'll have a picture of the Red Bull of what it used to look like versus the Red Bull that it looks like now. Basically, I'm going to be totally honest with you, and I think a lot of people probably realised it by now. The Red Bull was by far the worst car I built, and I even go as far as saying I've probably made the Red Bull one of the ugliest F1 Journey cars I've probably made in a long, long time. So I needed to rectify it, and it was basically fresh out of the blocks. Let's go back to basics here and try and make this a good looking car. So first things first, the front wing, obviously the bits in black, they're all in carbon fibre. Now to make this clear to anyone that does modding, anything in carbon fibre basically cannot be modded and can't be changed. It's just black carbon fibre and they leave that alone, so you can't do it. So this front wing itself, I believe, was actually in the Petronas blue, and it just looked off. So what I've done is I've changed it and I've gone back to the blue, or the darker blue that's littered around the Red Bull. The darker blue as well, I've actually made it even darker than what it used to be. It was actually a bit brighter than this. I've toned down the darkness of it, and I think it just helps it make it look a little bit better. The wheel covers. Now these were split, so where this, you see the main black wheel cover in there, it was split in half. So half of it was the darker blue that you see, and half of it was the turquoise Petronas blue. I decided that that just didn't look nice. It was quite ugly. So what I've done is I've basically reinstalled the original Red Bull wheel covers. Now the bit that's covered in the blue, which you can see in there, that is normally red. It's just how Red Bull's wheel cover is. So what I did is I simply just changed the color to the darker blue, and now for me it looks a lot nicer. The decals were nice and simple. I think I only had to change one or two just to get them back into play, but the Red Bull now looks like the Red Bull you can see with the new shark fin cover in there, which you actually see inside the engine of the car, and obviously the changes to the floors, etc. So Red Bull has had its tweak, but not too much. Now, the Ferrari has had its tweak. The Ferrari decal-wise has stayed the exact same. Nothing I had to do on the decals needed to be changed and edited for this. It was just the paint, because obviously the rear wing did initially have Ferrari on it. However, that's on the old car model, so on the new car model, that's not there anymore. So it means that on the new car model, it's all in carbon fiber. In fact, by the way, my position on my face cam is going to be, you're not going to be able to see it. So there we go, move it around. It'll all be in carbon fiber, so you can't do anything on that. And also I've had to change a little bit on the top here, so it actually has the number 75 there now instead. I think I had a prancing horse on there, but again, that decal got swiftly removed. But there are small changes. You can see on the mirrors, they've all been updated, and just a little bit of tweaks here and there. Also, the rear wing has been minutely modified for this one. So that's the Ferrari change. Next, the McLaren. Now, this is the only car on the entirety of the game, should we say, that I've not changed. I've left it alone. Now, basically, the new McLaren model was a massive downgrade in terms of what I could do in terms of, you know, putting sponsorships and everything on the car. Effectively, the new side pod that the McLaren had, which is over here where the Coca-Cola branding is, it basically meant that you literally could not put anything on that side pod. I tried to find every possible avenue to where I could potentially put some sponsoring. Fact is, you can't, and it was really disappointing. So after basically doing this entire mod, I thought to myself, no, it's not worth it. So I went ahead, obviously before I installed this the new updated model for the game, I backed up everything from what I'd already built. So all I did was just re-import my model, re-import the old McLaren model, re-import the livery, and re-import the decals, and just left it as it was pre-update, because actually it looks a hell of a lot better. And I think it looks cool, and it gives me more options, crucially, for future seasons to do some work with McLaren and make it look better. So I left it alone. Next up is the Porsche, and again, same with the Mercedes-Benz. I actually had to do nothing. I literally just re-imported my livery, re-imported my decals, and it all worked absolutely fine. No changes on there. So we've got the updated Alpine car model, but we've got a much better looking Porsche. I actually really like the Porsche in the new updated model. It looks really, really cool, but I'll give it a little bit of a once over so you can actually see around it. But yeah, it looks really, really nice. And it was nice and simple. So on that note, you know, very much pleased with that. Next, we've got Audi. Now, Audi was by far the most difficult and painful experience of my life for actually making liveries. On this one, I did have to build this one from scratch. Obviously, I used my old livery template on the new template, which it gave to me, but everything had shifted around, and that was decals. That were, well, not all the decals, some of them were the same, but mostly the paint itself had all changed positions. So I basically had to work from scratch with no wireframe to tell me where specific pieces was. So what's changed? Well, I mean, each car I'll showcase an image of the new car versus the old one, so you can see the differences between them. So you'll see that comparison as well in there. But with the Audi, I think, if I can remember off the top of my head, the front wing changed. That was pretty much the only major paintwork that changed on it. Also some decals in there. I don't know why this one side has got a little bit of a messy sponsorship on there. I've tried to tweak it, but it doesn't seem to want to be tweaked right now. So for the time being, it's a little bit messy. But you can see we've also put the Bosch logo on the front wing end plate. We put the Audi logo here on effectively the monocoque on the chassis. And then the Audi Sports have also had to have a slight change because the side pods on this car have also completely changed. Apart from that, the decal section wasn't the end of the world. It was actually a little bit simpler to work with that. So Audi paint-wise was a pain, but it has had a little bit of modification to it. It's mostly the front wing, to be honest, that's had its entire modification in there. But the rest of the car still looks absolutely fine. And yeah, I like the Audi livery, actually. It's a bit of an underrated one for one that I have made. Now, Aston Martin. Shout out to Aston Martin. Again, I didn't have to do anything on this one. I had to do a little bit of remodification to the paint, or, you know, the actual livery itself. Obviously, it's still the same, but it was just, you know, the actual template that you have when you export the paint out. There was some bits in different positions, so I just had to change a couple of bits. Nothing too crazy in there. The decals could stay absolutely identical, which was absolutely great. So yeah, the Aston Martin looking as lovely as ever. I really like what has been done with this one. And again, it's now updated onto the new car model. So yeah, it looks absolutely fine, and I'm really happy with that one. Next is Renault. Now, a few changes I've had to do to the Renault. Now, you'll probably notice it when we do a sideways comparison between the two. But again, the new car model did not allow me to do much work to the side pods. So the new side pods here, you can see that it's all carbon fibered out, which means you can't put anything on there apart from this Infinity logo, which I put on there. I did take a bit of time to debate whether it was actually better or worse than what I'd made, but I was actually quite happy with some of the new elements that were on there. So the yellow strips that go on the top of the chassis, and also the yellow that actually goes just underneath the airbox there and loops around. I actually thought it was quite nice, and at least I was able to keep these stripes here on the top of the chassis. Meant that I was actually quite happy with it. Yes, I've lost the Infinity logo on the full side of the side pod, but overall, I've also lost I had the stripes that came outwards on the rear of the car, and then they poked outwards, very similar to my livery from season 9. I actually copied and pasted that through. The rear end of the car by here, where the number is, has also changed, and it's actually gone now because, again, the positioning of the paint has actually completely changed. But after doing all the importing, I actually realised that it was kind of nice, and I do actually like it. I really like what I do with the Renault livery, making it black and then yellow. So in the end, I decided to keep it as it was. Now, Jaguar. I didn't have to do anything with Jaguar, fortunately enough for me. No changes. Reinstalled the decals, reinstalled my paint livery, and absolutely fine. So it's nice and black and green as it was before. The only slight quibble, which I fixed in the first part of the livery, but I cannot fix it for the love of me in this bit, is this air green bit on the rear wing end plate. So for the time being, unfortunately, that's just going to be staying there. And hopefully later down the line, I can put in a little bit of a hot fix and just change that for one of the races. But it's not really taking too much away from the livery itself. So yeah, no changes needed for the Jaguar. Next up is BMW. Unfortunately, it's definitely a livery that I'm not 100% happy with. But at the end of the day, it's not actually the end of the world. So on the front ring of the car, again, we've got the M Sport logo with the colours of the BMW M Sport logo littered across the rear wing, which is quite nice. The light blue of the BMW staying across here, and then they loop downwards onto the side. We've got the BMW bank. Now, we did have a little bit more colour on this BMW than we did before. And again, we've got the sponsorships in there, which are pretty difficult to make with what the Haas model actually allows you to do. But there are liveries that are going to look good, and there are some liveries that are just going to look not so good. The thing which I always take encouragement from is when I go to make a new livery for a new season of Formula 1 cars, as soon as I get the wireframing, basically, if the models get extracted out and we've got brand new car models to work for, heading into a new season then, it just allows me to evolve the livery and take it a new step upwards. So obviously it'll be hot fixed maybe a little bit, just to tweak it in one or two small areas. But apart from that, it's not great, but I don't think it's terrible. You guys may have a different opinion though. You know, that's obviously down to you and your call on that one. And on that note, that is all of the liveries. They are all of them there. So a couple of them have changed, a couple of them haven't. They've pretty much kept their similar identity, but obviously some of them have had minor tweaks to them. But guys, I just wanted to give you guys an update on why obviously Season 10 the new races haven't been going forward. So obviously there was no episode this week. This is why I had to rebuild everything from scratch, and everything's working. I've done a test of this, so I can crack back on with it, and hopefully I can get an episode out next week. If not, obviously I'm still really busy in my own personal life anyway. Then it'll be the week afterwards. But just wanted to give you an update that everything's done, everything's been tested. It's just a case now of recording races and getting back on with it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Drop it a like, subscribe if you're new around here as well. And yeah, that is season 10 updated. And I'll see you guys back on the track. Take care all. Peace.